Welcome to Notes from the New Heaven. Join me, Reverend Sage Cole, founder of the Helen Keller Spiritual Life Collaborative, each week as I share different doctrinal truths of the new church that ground my life, that inspired the life of the great Helen Keller, and that create a portal for the new life that so many of us long for. This week, the church. All right, our note from the New Heaven today is about the topic of church. And I debated driving over to my husband's church to film this, or just the church, the Jehovah's Witness meeting house that's just a couple of streets away from me. But then I decided to film here on my hammock because while there are lots of places that we call church, and those places certainly are places where church happens, I am not disputing that in any way. At the core of the invitation to be church, as far as I can tell and as I understand it, is the invitation to honor the Sabbath, to honor God's activity in our life, and to rest from our labors to recognize all that God is doing, that we might be here and that we might be alive. So it felt like my hammock was a good place to record this message. This is definitely a place that I come to rest and to remember all that is being done around and in me right now without my efforts, without my management, all that God is doing. Emanuel Swedenborg really blows open the understanding of church to say that while church does happen in organized capacities, in buildings and in denominations, at its core, it's something that needs to happen in us as individuals, that the church is within us insofar as we are recognizing and acknowledging all that God is doing to sustain our lives, to guide our lives, and taking time to stop our incessant doing and management. So whether we do that on a hammock or in a kingdom hall or in a church or in a synagogue or in a river, wherever we do that, to be church, to honor and manifest church in the world is to take the time to give our attention to that divine life. And another way that Swedenborg describes the church is it's the meeting point between heaven and earth. It's where heaven and earth come together, and it's where the word is acknowledged and celebrated. And you can go back to look at my video that I released a few weeks ago about the word to consider what that might mean. Whether we live into this invitation to be the church through forms like traditional churches, or whether we take the time to be the church in our own unique ways and capacities, the invitation to be church and the importance of church is that we take that time to listen to God, to make space, to remember all that God is doing beyond all the things we think we are doing, and to align ourselves to that divine activity, to be a bridge. I like to think about the church as a bridge between heaven and earth. And I want to be close to that bridge, right? I want my earthly life to be infused with the divine life. And I want that divine life to come into this earthly life, right? I don't want to just float away into a transcendent state. And I don't want to toil away here thinking that that's everything that life is about. I want to hold both at the same time. And insofar as I hold both at the same time, I am the church. And when I get to gather with other people who are also holding both of those things at the same time, then we get to be church. And this is how the church manifests in the world in larger and larger ways. Perhaps this is a good moment to speak about what I mean when I talk about the new church, for those of you who are coming into this conversation and it's all still very new to you. The new church is what Swedenborg saw the church was going to be growing into. If you remember, he was writing in the 1700s. This was the time after the Reformation. The church was the Catholic Church, and then it was these new Protestant churches. He perceived at the time that all the branches of the churches that existed were very focused on externals, external ritual, either professing the right beliefs or doing the right things. And Swedenborg really saw that church had to be much deeper than that it wasn't about that. It was about who we really were living into. And he foresaw that a new church was going to come into being in the world where human beings would come to understand that it was this reality of who we are that was where God met us, more than in the ways we practice together. And so when I speak of church and say you can be church on your hammock or in a building or taking care of your kids or in the river, I'm speaking about that new church. And that even though we're sometimes all doing it in very different ways, there's a unity that connects us, a spiritual connection, where this new church is coming into being, where we are recognizing the divine life. We are honoring it. We are resting in it. We are making space for it. We are receiving it. We are bringing it into our external lives. We're seeking to do that individually, and we're seeking to do that with others. I hope that makes some sense. I hope wherever you are, you might take some time to remember and give thanks for all that God is doing to make life possible in this given moment. So I hope you'll get to church today. Blessings, friends. Thanks for tuning in. And if any of these truths particularly speak to you, I hope you'll join us this fall for some larger conversations that I want to hold, because I'd love to hear your experience with them. These truths only are true insofar as we live them, and I'm so excited to hear about your experience. Many blessings, friends.